West Denver. Sleep deprived and heavily caffeinated.
All right, let's do this then.
This is the Jeff and Bill Show.
I don't agree with that.
They don't always agree, but hey, at least they have coffee.
Coffee.
And each other.
I love you, man.
God help us.
I want to bless him. We need all the help we can get.
Now here's Jeff Hunt and Bill Thorpe. The Jeff and Bill Show on News Talk 710 KNUS.
7 a.m. in the Mile High City on this Tuesday, October 14th, 2025. Good morning, Denver, Colorado. You've tuned in to the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. Billy out this week, and I said, let's go have some fun. Let's bring the heat. Let's push it to 11. Live in studio with us is Singh Badhesha. He's a policy advocate. He's a card-carrying member of the Democrat Socialists of America. He thinks Colorado's too moderate. It needs to get more progressive, and he's leading the way for that. Phone lines are hot. Text messages are hot. And guys, look, there's no other place where this conversation is going to take place. You go to any of the other stations, it's a monologue, or they just read text messages, or you go to CPR, and you're just going to hear stories. Here, it is a debate. Here it is a discussion. This is what this country needs. I appreciate Deep coming into conservative talk radio and taking calls and texts. Speaking of that, let's go to Rod in Littleton. Good morning, Rod. You're on with Jeff and Deep Singh Badhesha. Good morning.
Good morning, guys. I want to talk about the personal responsibility, but he equated the inner city drug problem to the opioid crisis, which was caused by doctors. The inner city drug problem, although there's a lot of causes, wasn't so much government related as it was just for a way for people to escape. Those are two different things.
Do you want to respond to that? I mean, there is evidence that the government was involved, at least some in the crack cocaine epidemic. Right?
Yeah, both of them. So, I mean, thanks for coming in. Thanks for calling in for that. There is this, when you read Malcolm X's biography, he actually talks about this too, is libertarians, I think, have a good strain of this argument that when you have a large government that doesn't answer to its people, right? A large government that is more for corporations or its donors or whatever it's in place, that sets up the most vulnerable in our society for exploitation. Before, you used to see that was targeted in particular in America towards immigrant communities, black communities, right? But as America became larger and larger, and the government became larger as well, that exploitation extended to white communities, into rural communities that were traditionally protected by a government that would do that, right? So you see this level of exploitation all across the board, right? And oftentimes it's the canaries in the coal mine that are these minority populations. And we could reflect back and talk about ICE. Right now, ICE and this essentially Gestapo, these mass officers that are going into the city, they are going and they're targeting the most vulnerable in society. But eventually that's going to start turning. In Portland, Oregon, I'm not sure if you've been to Portland, Oregon. Portland, Oregon is like 90% white. I've been around
It's a
Portland.
Disaster. It's also like crazy
And
progressive.
The thing that's going to happen is slowly, you start with the canaries in the coal mine, and then this authoritarian sweep goes after everybody. So
hold on. Your argument is that ICE is eventually going to start going after citizens?
You don't have to take my word for it. Stephen Miller said that, right? Stephen Miller said
they're going to
denaturalize. They said they're going to denaturalize U.S. citizens, and they're going to aim for deporting those folks as well, right?
Just randomly. We're going to clear out people even if you've been naturalized.
Any pretext that they have, right?
No, it's not any pretext. It's mostly that you came here illegally. Go ahead, Steve. Rod.
Yeah, ICE is trying to clean up the problem that the Biden administration, the liberals, caused. Right. And now they're pissing and moaning because they're taking away those people they let in to hopefully get to be their voters. That's ridiculous. And the fact that ICE is taking people who have only committed the crime of coming into this country illegally, they've gone away from the catch and release. If they come across somebody who violated that law, they're going to deport them. That's what they should do.
Right. I mean, do you support open borders?
Am I on
Who?
right now?
No, I'm sorry, Deep. Do you support
Yeah.
open borders?
Sorry, I wasn't sure what the light meant.
Yeah, sorry.
I thought you muted me.
Yeah.
I do not support open borders as the way that they've been laid out.
Yeah.
Right. I do support a strong immigration policy. I think immigrants make this country strong. It was founded on immigrants. I'm a child of immigrants.
Right.
As I said earlier in the last hour, my family's been here for almost 100 years. Right. And my family's full of folks who are doctors, engineers, lawyers.
Made
Actually,
great contributions.
Farmers, right?
Yeah.
Conservatives who are in California, who are sometimes the lone Republicans in their areas. So I think immigrants add to a vibrancy of America. If we're going to talk about the migrant crisis that happened, right? That was a fallout from U.S. policies in Latin America and South America, right? The reason why these folks were fleeing a lot of their countries is based on U.S. intervention in those places. What we had done to Venezuela based on those sanctions. I had talked to migrants who came to Denver. And when I was talking to migrants in Denver, it wasn't like, hey, I love it here. It's so cold. It's so amazing, right? They're like, hey, I'm here because I need to support my family. And when I get the chance to go back to Venezuela, I will.
So you think we should have, it's our fault, therefore we should take in 10, 20 million
I think we
illegal
should
immigrants.
correct our foreign policy that leads to these huge waves of migrants on our continent.
We have to deal with Hugo
And when it comes
Chavez.
to the humanitarian crisis of the migrants, right? These are folks who are oftentimes able-bodied. These are people who do want to work jobs. And the thing that makes it a crisis is that they can't work jobs. They can't pay taxes. They have to go into an underground black market and work there. And this is the thing about the ICE raids that I think exposes the whole gambit about what's happening and why immigration is like illegal immigration is oftentimes supported by oligarchs on both sides. Right now, ICE is going into Portland or it's going into Chicago.
Yes.
It's raiding like apartment complexes. It's taking U.S. citizens, snatching them from overnight and keeping them for 24, 48 hours, right? It's terrorizing these communities. Meanwhile, when Donald Trump's ICE started going after farm workers and folks who worked in factories and folks who worked in hotels, those billionaire owners called up Donald Trump and said, hey, actually, we need these workers to work these industries. We need to keep them exploited. Can you actually do your raid somewhere else? And he complied.
No,
right?
he didn't.
He complied.
He's been doing raids at these processing plants and
they shifted.
Hyundai plant down in
They shifted from
Georgia.
going after those folks because the capitalists and the oligarchs there said, "Hey, cut it out." And then he went to use ICE somewhere else to terrorize cities. And it's an unfortunate thing.
Go ahead.
It's not terrorizing
Ron.
cities. It's doing what they need to do because the Biden administration opened the border, opened the floodgate. It's not, if you could call it terrorizing the public, they're doing a job that we shouldn't have to do because of the left. And that comes back to the personal responsibility. We have to be responsible for what we do. They need to be responsible for what they do. If they came here illegally, they've been given the option to leave and then apply for citizenship if they want to come back or work visas.
Rod,
that's what they need to do. Yes.
So, Rod, I'm talking about U.S. citizens in Chicago and in California and in Portland. ICE has detained U.S. citizens repeatedly, multiple times. So much so that they actually got a legal resident almost to a flight to deport them, even though they had a green card and another person was a U.S. citizen. How many U.S. citizens are you willing to arrest to address this crisis?
What I'll tell you is watching the behavior of people who are trying to impede ICE doing their job.
No, that's not what's happening. I'm saying they're going into these apartment complexes.
It is. How come we're not hearing that on the news media nightly that this U.S. citizen suffered this? That's not in the mainstream media. That's something that the left should use to
should Google it.
Beat over.
ICE,
Yeah, but
New York Times had it as Washington Post had it as a headline.
You guys have what, 1, 2? I don't
It's
care
not
if there's
one or two,
100. We're dealing with 20 million illegal people in the country. 20 million. And if you're trying to do enforcement, yeah, you're going to run into some mistakes that are made. I don't blame ICE for doing that, but we're dealing with 20 million illegal immigrants.
You know, I was a cop for 20 years. You do the job. You investigate. And if somebody is cleared, then they're cleared.
They're not investigating,
if they are, if they're letting them out. If you're telling me that they're taking these U.S. citizens, If they're detaining these U.S. citizens and then through the process they process them, they realize that they're not an illegal immigrant and they're letting them go, then they're doing an investigation.
And I guess, I bet, too, that the ACLU would be itching, begging
they
for
would.
that type of overreach. I mean, look what they've done with Garcia. And how they've made him a martyr. Rod, I appreciate it, but let's give you the last word. Go ahead,
let's not deny the realities. During the break, I will actually show the articles and the proof to Jeff, and we can talk about how ICE is arresting U.S. citizens. The reason that this should be a concern to every single American is this is how authoritarianism creeps in, right? When you have folks who can be a mass police that can arrest U.S. citizens, and they're maybe arresting them for a legitimate purpose in your mind, right? I think it's an illegitimate purpose, but let's say they're going in there sweeping all these folks up, right? Now what they're doing is they're slowly extending their power. If you saw the newest memorandum from Donald Trump about what has become terrorist activity, right? And that's essentially any oppositional speech. If you speak anti-capitalist, right? If you speak against anti-Christianity, anti-Americanism,
Semitism,
anti-democracy, any of those things that you have now. We just take the First Amendment and throwing it out, right? They're saying these people are a threat now, and now they're going to start going after those people. But this is going to slowly trickle into the Republican Party as well, into the Libertarian Party. Anyone who stands up against his administration will be caught in this dragnet. So it is worrisome when Americans and citizens have their civil rights violated. We should all be concerned about where it leads.
I 100% agree with you. And when they start arresting Thomas Massey and Rand Paul, then
Thomas Massey's,
I'll agree with you.
That's the thing. Thomas Massey's, within 12 months, I think you could see a Thomas Massey-like figure start being hit.
With incarceration, detainment?
With a lot of things. You've already seen it with Trump's treatment of the news media, Trump's treatment of law firms.
He hasn't arrested anybody.
Of universities. No, they're
George
using the power.
Stephanopoulos.
They're using the power of the federal government to go after people who speak against them. And Jeff, you have been critical of the past administrations. Yeah. You might be on this list too. You have Democratic Socialists on your show. There we go. You're aiding and enabling.
That's a lot of fun. All right, good job. You have jam-packed phone lines. I literally don't have an open line. So if you can't get through, text right now, 720-819-5115, 720-819-5115, if you want to join the conversation, and we want you to. Dial in the minute that we finish with somebody. Steve, Kevin, Joe, we're going to get to you guys next. Now it's time, though, for News and Comment with Blake Olson.
Blake Olson.
Blake Olson, News and Comment.
Hey, good Tuesday morning, 45 and cloudy, expecting a high of 74 today. News sponsored by Pastor Camp Heating and Air Conditioning at 303-777-1234 to learn more about special savings opportunities on Lennox equipment. Our top story.
Have you met with Speaker Mike Johnson?
No, Speaker Mike Johnson and I have not met.
Why not?
Made the decision. Donald Trump has not given them permission to meet, Katie.
Dollar Store Obama, Hakeem Jeffries, so full of it. Senators will make another attempt today to end the Schumer shutdown. Now in week 3, a vote is planned, but there's little sign of progress. Now back to can't hold a candle to Hakeem Jeffries.
And we know that until Donald Trump gives them permission to meet, they're going to continue to hide as it relates to sitting down and negotiating a bipartisan agreement.
He will say anything. They could end it right now. Israel says it's going to keep the pressure on Hamas until all the bodies of dead Israeli hostages are returned. All 20 living hostages were returned Monday as a part of the ceasefire deal. But Hamas only returned 4 of the 28 dead hostages, sparking anger among the Israelis. The Israeli government's hostage coordinator insists the mission is not complete until all the hostages are back. But he must remember Monday.
War in Gaza is over. Humanitarian aid is now pouring in, including hundreds of truckloads of food, medical equipment, and other supplies, much of it paid for by people in this room.
Messy NBC can't even believe all of this. It's just incredible. Just minutes ago.
Let's look back at yesterday. Just an extraordinary day, and unlike, I think, any day I've ever seen, certainly coming out of the Middle East.
Joe, it was a joyous day of images of people celebrating genuine, deep happiness at seeing their relatives home, seeing Palestinian prisoners return. On both sides, you saw the just unmistakable joy of the day.
The White House will celebrate the late, great Charlie Kirk today on what would have been his 32nd birthday. DJT said he'll be posthumously awarding Charlie the Presidential Medal of Freedom. And independent investigations continue, and millions agree there was a second shooter in the assassination, and the assassination was much more complex than just one shooter on the roof working independently. Thousands of questions and a lot of video evidence that none of us have seen yet. The man who crashed and killed the Golden police officer last year has reached a plea agreement to a number of charges. Fox 31 legal analyst Christopher Decker says the case underscores the stakes when a public servant is killed in the line of duty.
All vehicular homicides are tragic, but anytime we have a public servant like a state trooper or a police officer that's injured in the line of duty, just showing up, doing their job, it's particularly tragic.
Yes, it is. Stephen Gear pleaded guilty to vehicular homicide, DUI, and vehicular assault. He was accused of causing a chain reaction crash on Highway 58 last November, leading to Officer Evan Dunn's death. Gear faces between 4 to 18 years in prison when he's sentenced in January. The Denver City Council wants the mayor to restore $575,000 to the city budget to fund 5 parking magistrate positions. The council says the positions are necessary to manage increased parking enforcement and guarantee the timely resolution of citations. The city shut down its online parking protest portal last month when the magistrates and their support staff were laid off. At least 9 members of the council support the return of the parking magistrates. Big Tish in front of all of her fans last night, and sounds mostly like women here. And she's waving, puts her fist up in the crowd, up in the air, that is. She's such a hero. Unbelievable. Amazing. Amazing, Big Tish.
I love you. I love you.
They love her. We love Tish. And she blows a kiss to all of them. They just love Big Tish. Tried to destroy DJT. And now mortgage fraud is facing her. The Avalanche beat the Sabres last night 3-1. They are 3-0-1. Great start for them. Mariners blew out the Blue Jays 10-3, 2-0 lead in the best of 7 ALCS series. Dodgers drew first blood against the league best Brewers 2-1 in Game 1 of the NLCS. Monday Night Football, the Falcons upset the Bills. That's their second straight loss, 24-14. The Bears, a big win over the Commanders. 44 in Lone Tree, 43 in Lakewood, 45 in Denver. Jeff and Billy continue. Deep Singh is in for Billy. A new father, too. Congratulations to him. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Your 710 5-day forecast still can see a few showers into the early morning hours, and then morning clouds give way to sunshine in the Denver metro. Morning temperature readings in the mid-40s with highs mid-70s. Clear Tuesday night, upper 40s with middle and upper 70s Wednesday. Sunny and breezy for midweek. Then another Pacific trough will bring us rain showers Wednesday night into Thursday. Thursday, Friday, highs mid-60s. Weather brought to you by L&L Heating and Air Conditioning. For quick, trustworthy, and dependable service, call 720 720-851-1691 or visit them online at besteverhvac.com. Meteorologist Don Watzel in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Bill's out this week, and we're having tons of fun with very progressive leaders. Probably, I'd say, Colorado's top progressive leaders, because we love to debate and discuss. Plenty of shows out there. You can go listen to everybody's podcasts that are just monologues. We love debate, discussion. So joining me now is Singh Badhesha. He's a political activist. He is a card-carrying member of the Democrat Socialists of America. He thinks Colorado's too moderate and would like to see more progressive reforms at the level of Mondami, like what we're seeing in New York City. Did I get that right?
Yeah, I wouldn't put it as much as a left-right dynamic as much as it's top versus bottom dynamic.
Oppressor
right?
Versus oppressed.
I don't think it's oppressor versus oppressed necessarily, right? It's like, the 99% versus the 1%. The 99% has a lot more power, and you can view it as an oppressed class, but it's a class that's powerful. It's a class that's labor drives this country, right? American workers are what have made this one of the greatest nations in the world, right? And those people are being left behind. They cannot afford homes. Their jobs aren't paying the bills. It's hard for them to raise a family. And who is going to fight for that, right? Is it going to be a Democratic Party or a Republican Party? And right now, I think the neoliberals that have been running Colorado for too long are leaving folks behind.
I'm intrigued that in your journey, and if you missed it, go back to the 6 o'clock hour podcast and listen to it. You're a journeyman. You were a libertarian at one point. Help me understand.
I had a tea party for a little bit, too.
Right. You look at the problem that you just described, and you're like, you know what? The government is the solution. I mean, that is the least accountable, most corrupt. They have the power to take everybody's money. I mean, if Jeff Bezos wants my money, it's because I freely give it to him because I want toilet paper delivered to my door. I don't have that freedom with the federal or state government. They take it. So help me understand how you look at the problem you just described, and you're like, the government is the one that should fix that.
So I think that's something that I would love to clarify for your listeners and yourself. It's not necessarily that I want a bigger, bolder government that's going to come in and control every aspect of society, right? I want a government that reflects its people, that has a democratic relationship with its populace, that can protect its people from oppression that comes from all people, whether it's a government entity, a state entity, a local entity, or a large corporation or a rich person, right? I genuinely would be in favor of lower taxes on labor-based income, right? Income that you pay, that you earn on your labor should be taxed less than wealth-based taxes. So I believe the American workers are getting a raw deal, not just from the government, but they're getting a raw deal from corporations, right? And that's because of monopoly concentration. Even if you ask the most fiscal conservatives, the most libertarian people, right, they will say that markets break down when you have concentrated powers in monopolies.
Right,
and
like
some
Excel.
libertarians will say that government has essentially set up these type of things, right, and you need more competition to do it. But unfortunately, what we've seen time and time again is that actually when you have a free market and everyone's trying to make as much profit as possible, is cartels will form, right? And people will start colluding on prices, and people will form bigger and bigger monopolies to exploit consumers and exploit workers, right? And it's the role of the government to make sure there is more robust competition, to lower prices, to protect consumers, to make sure landlords are including on rent. Let's talk about landlords and how Colorado Democrats have failed renters, right?
Not rent control.
No, not rent control.
All right.
I'm talking about collusion between landlords.
Yeah.
If you're a landlord and I'm a landlord and all our buddies are landlords and we hop on the phone once a month and say, hey, I'm going to set the right price here and let's make sure you leave 10% of your units vacant. I'm going to leave 10% of my units vacant and we're going to just jack up the rent. This would be illegal. Right, this is collusion. This is cartel behavior. This is price fixing, and it's not allowed. Yeah. What's happened in Colorado and happened in other places in Denver and in the U.S. is that landlords are using AI algorithms to go into a system, put how many units they have, and this AI algorithm then is going across the market and saying, hey, leave this many units vacant and raise the rent this much. There was a bill brought by progressive legislator Javier Mabry to stop this price fixing, right? This is price fixing that the Department of Justice had already said is illegal. This bill passed the chambers, right? And it was vetoed because that's the type of things that are leaving Coloradans behind, right? This isn't exploitation from the government. This is exploitation from landlords, from folks who are buying up these investment properties and jacking up your rent. So I'm advocating for a government, or I'm advocating for a market or a system that puts American workers first. And that's something that Donald Trump actually was able to say in his campaign.
So would you support tariffs?
I think tariffs, if they're targeted, if they're specific, if they have a purpose to it, they can be very, very useful, especially when it's coming to protect American industries. The way that Donald Trump has used it essentially is become a point of leverage in a system of bribing, where he's like, hey, I'm going to put tariffs on your industries unless you come talk to me and give me what I want in this specific area.
Or stop trafficking drugs.
He uses tariffs in a myriad of ways. And it's
right.
One of the ways that Democrats should actually take note is when, you're elected to government, you should be able to use power to achieve the vision that you have.
Would you support then the Supreme Court continuing to grant him that power? Because that's a case coming in October.
I think the Supreme Court's going to do it.
Yeah.
I think the Supreme Court's essentially going to rubber stamp whatever Donald Trump puts in front of them, right? And we can talk about how Congress should probably, Republicans are the most interesting people here, where they have had their power defanged at the federal government level, right? If you were a chair of the Ways and Means Committee, or you're a chair of appropriations, or if you had worked in Congress for a long time, you had carved out this power, right? You had carved out what it meant to be a Republican in Congress, and then Donald Trump comes in and is like, actually, you don't even matter as a branch of government. So,
they
honestly,
did that under
Congress,
Obama in 08.
I think the best tariff policy would probably be from a Congress and a branch that's reactive to the American workers.
Congress can't get anything done. That's why I think they're going to end up putting us in the executive.
The biggest problem, if I had a magic wand and I could solve one problem in America, it'd probably be the campaign finance corruption that we have. And I think you had actually a text message from somebody that Democrats...
Citizens United, yeah.
Yeah. Overturning Citizens United, getting corporate money, billionaire money out of our elections, and or at the very least just having transparency about who's paying these people would go such a long way to have the government and our markets work for our people.
You could also, if you had your magic wand, just make sure that most of the power lied with Congress, but then that would put you in the camp of Neil Gorsuch. All right, so joining us here,
law professor at my law school.
Deep Singh Badhesha's live in studio. Let's go to the phone lines. Who should we do? Steve? Steve in Denver. All right, Steve, good morning. Steve, you're on with Jeff and Deep.
Good morning, Deep. Good morning, Jeff.
Good morning.
Jeff, tremendous show yesterday, and tremendous the way you interacted and treated Ted.
Well, thank you. Yeah, Ted was great. I appreciate these debates and conversations. What I found with these guys and with the other folks that will be joining us is these are the people that don't get so caught up and offended if you disagree with them. They're willing to engage at the point of difference and not take it personally, which I appreciate. Go ahead, Steve.
Deep, I have a question. I'm a Democrat, been one forever. I agree with you about President Trump's offensive treatment by ICE, both citizens and non-citizens. But my question is, President Trump is gaining more and more support every day in the country. It was a crushing loss to Harris, and then you have, I think, increasing support for him. And how do you think the Democrats could ever win the White House? White House again? Because I think the general public sentiment about the Democratic Party is that they are completely off the rails. They're off track, and they're talking about the wrong things. Thank you.
Great question, Steve. Your response, Steve.
Well, thanks, Steve. I appreciate you calling in. Good to hear from a Democrat. Look at that. You're reaching across the aisle here. I think if the Democratic Party moving forward, if it's going to be Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries, we're never going to win the White House, let alone Congress or anything else, right? And the thing that keeps Donald Trump very agile is, again, he's not ideologically committed to really unpopular policies. There are things in the Republican Party base or or the conservative majority or libertarian base that are really unpopular, that Donald Trump probably won't go there, and he'll probably do things to avoid it. And he'll probably give a couple, gifts and populist treatment to the American public in a way that you would see a Democratic president do it. And those things are going to keep him popular, right? You can look at this Middle East peace deal, right? Biden and Kamala completely messed up with the Middle East and not forcing Bibi Netanyahu to settle for peace, right? They completely let Bibi Netanyahu continue his war there unchecked.
Didn't Trump?
While Donald Trump, though, to his credit, was like, I want a deal, right? I want this for my own personal reasons, right? I want to make the Qataris happy. I want to make my son-in-law happy. I want to do these for X, Y, and Z reasons. But he was able to take the win there, right? Other things he's going to take the win on is he's talking about giving the American workers a $2,000 check, right?
No.
And he's talking about
I hope not.
And
we did that in COVID. It was a disaster.
He took 10% of a U.S. steel company. He's taking ownership of chip companies, and he is investing in the American people. He's taking lefty, progressive ideas that are good for American workers, repackaging them, right? And if he keeps playing his cards this way, while simultaneously making sure law firms can't stand up against him, that he's defanging opposition in the Republican Party, defanging Democratic opposition, it will be hard-pressed to figure out how we're ever going to see this, and we might see more and more authoritarian tendencies. You've seen this in democracies across the board. The one silver lining that we have, and this is the very unfortunate silver lining, is that there is massive amounts of corruption that you see in the Republican administrations right now, whether it's the self-dealing you see from Trump's cabinet or the self-dealing you see within Trump's own family. And oftentimes, you've probably heard this saying that there is no honor amongst thieves, right? The reason why oligarchic states and authoritarian states often fall and collapse is because the self-dealing and the corruption ends up leading to infighting within the own party, right? You'll see this when Elon Musk wants a certain type of EV policy and other folks don't, right? Or you'll see when Trump's picking winners and losers on the tariff policy. So you might see some infighting there, and you'll see that coalition collapse. At the same time, Democrats, to go to your question, is they need to become an American worker first party, right? They need to adopt more stances from, I believe, like folks like AOC or Bernie or Zoran, or folks like Dan Osborne in Nebraska. Dan Osborne in Nebraska is an independent. We probably disagree on many issues, but he's the type of person who's going to put the Nebraskan farmers first, Nebraskan workers first. And if you're able to have folks like Dan Osborne break through, folks like Mary Pelota in Alaska break through, who's more of a populist there, folks like Grant Plattner in Maine, if you can see a new Democratic Party come up that's not this DC Beltway consultants like Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries, then I think we can win back power. If Democrats don't fix themselves and Republicans actually don't let their corruption take themselves out, it's going to be hard to figure out how we win back power.
Steve, appreciate the call. Thanks so much. Steve's line will be open. Quickly dial in if you'd like. It's the only line I got open. 303-696-1971. 303-696-1971. Let's talk Middle East here. Huge day yesterday.
Well, grateful that there's peace in the Middle East. I mean, like,
and the hostages have been released.
If you saw the joy that you saw from the Palestinian side, the joy that you saw from folks returning to their homes in Gaza that are completely in rubble, right? And the death toll that we know of is at least 70 or 80,000 people. And when the death toll comes back, that's from Israel.
That's from the Hamas
that's for Bibi Netanyahu and Benjamin Gvir and their genocidal war led to in complete destruction of Gaza as we knew it before, right? And when folks are returning to their homes, it is beautiful. You saw the joyous nature from there. And then in Israel, you also saw people being so thankful that there was finally a peace deal. And the most telling thing about this peace deal was the treatment that Trump got in Israel and the treatment that Bibi Netanyahu got in his own country. Is when Bibi Netanyahu was at those rallies, he was being booed by his own people, saying, you did not take this deal soon enough. And then Trump was being cheered, saying, thank you for forcing our government to take this deal. And that really leads open to, wow, Biden and Kamala could have done a similar thing This whole time. No, we had.
They're
had leverage.
actually
America had
enabled
leverage.
to do that.
America had leverage.
Unable.
America had leverage. The U.S. government had leverage, right? The amount of billions of dollars that's paid to Israel by the taxpayers of this country, the American taxpayers here. In Colorado, we spent $300 million of our federal taxpayer money to go to Israel. So folks here are upset that their taxpayer money is going. Imagine your taxpayer money going to Israel that has universal health care, that has fully funded colleges, just for them to have bombs that kill kids. Right? When I talk to young conservatives, when I talk to folks in Turning Point
they're
USA,
not killing kids.
I talk to
they're not targeting kids.
50,000 kids have
They're
died
not
in
targeting
Gaza.
kids. That's a
50,000 kids.
Hamas number.
No,
that's a Hamas
50,000.
number.
That is a UN number. That's a Red Cross number.
Deep. I've done work at the United Nations. It's the most anti-Semitic, disgusting place ever.
The Red Cross number?
I'll have to look up the Red Cross number.
And
I haven't
we'll
seen
get
that.
more
but
when journalists end up in Gaza and they start doing a death toll. You'll see it. But the thing is,
well, don't kidnap innocent Jews and
when
rape
I
and
talk
kill
to
them.
young folks in Turning Point USA, right? Those are the folks who are actually most upset by this. They're like, why are we spending so much of our taxpayer monies to go overseas when I can't afford a house here? And that's something that the Republican Party is going to have to grapple with. But Donald Trump was actually able to get this peace deal across, right? And
Do you
let's
give him
talk
credit
about,
for that?
Yeah, and let's talk about how he ended up in this situation and how I think Democrats failed this. Again, talking about the root of all issues here in America is money in politics. The corporate establishment, the Democratic establishment, Kamala raised $1.5 billion. They are convinced the only way they can win is by gathering up the largest pile of money they can, paying consultants, and then going on TV with unpopular ideas and trying to win. And because of that, they are so scared of pissing off AIPAC, right? AIPAC. That they're now willing to toe those lines, right? They'll answer to any corporate donors, including AIPAC. Donald Trump, meanwhile, doesn't really care about donors in that way, right? He cares about his own personal interests. So you have someone who went to the Middle East looking for a deal for his own personal interests because he wanted to end wars, because he thinks that's good for his own image. And he has
cares what the motivation is? He ends in a war.
And he has a really close personal relationship with Middle Eastern countries, whether it's Saudi Arabia or Qatar. And so does his son-in-law. Jared Kushner's venture capitalist firm that has billions of dollars invested in it from Saudi Arabia and Qatar, right? They're the ones who brokered this. Qatar gave Donald Trump a $400 million plane, and then they gave him a $5.5 billion golf course, right?
Right, but
they have smoothed the waters, right? And Donald Trump's like, wow, I got to keep these Qatar guys happy. They're paying all this kind of stuff. So he was willing.
Peace for Israel with Qatar money.
And this is something you need to understand about Donald Trump. Is Donald Trump operates in this interesting vacuum where it's like, what is best for me? What is best for my family?
No,
what is best for my image and my power? Right? And sometimes those things coalesce. Let's go back into a way that his own personal interests don't align oftentimes with America, right? I'm
gonna stay on Middle East though.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so let's go back to Israel spending. Can Israel survive without American dollars?
Can U.S. taxpayers afford that right now?
No, I don't want to see Israel decimated. And I think Trump gets this wrong about the Palestinians. I think there's bloodlust there, because I spent 3 days marching with them at the DNC, so I've talked to them, I've interviewed them. Okay, and yesterday Trump said that we've got peace first time in 3,000 years, as if all of a sudden that bloodlust against Jews is gone. I think it's still there. I think they're going to regroup. I think there'll be continued battles that take place. And now the next 19 steps in this 20-point plan have got to be about making sure these people never get guns again, and weapons. And there needs to be somebody else in charge of that land than Hamas. But I don't want to see. I want to ask you this question. If the United States does not spend the $300 billion or whatever you said it was.
$300 million, Colorado
$300
alone.
million, okay. Would Israel still be there?
This is a conversation I want to have directed towards your audience. And if I understand your audience, they're a little bit more conservative. They love Tabor, right? I would love a Tabor in the United States of America for foreign countries, right? They're like, before a single U.S. dollar of taxpayer money goes to a foreign country, I would love a popular vote in America for it. And
That's fine.
I bet time and time again.
But do you think Israel will still be there?
I bet time and time again the American taxpayers, the way they're feeling right now, would not send a single penny overseas until their own cities are taken care of, right? You talk about public safety. What's the excuse of spending $300 million in Israel that has universal health care, right? You just talked about how important it is for Americans not to pay for each other's health care. Meanwhile, we're subsidizing a country that has it.
That's a fine argument.
So,
but can you guarantee me that Israel will remain there in the Middle East if we're not going to spend the $300 million?
I think an American government should put the American people first.
So I don't think that it will. I think that's part of the problem in this equation is that you're dealing with radical Islamists that want the full destruction of Israel, and the second that they could get it, they would.
We had talked about how you used to be a neocon, right?
Yeah.
And you wanted to, you're part of this Bush-era doctrine, this Cheney doctrine, going around the world.
Right. Creating democracies that will never accept it. And that's Afghanistan, Iran. Or Iraq, and there's an important distinction.
And Obama also had the similar failures too when it came to the Arab Spring, right? Going in, doing these interventions. Barack Obama was elected on this mindset of Hillary Clinton's foreign policy and neoliberal and neocon policy is horrible and it's led to America to ruins. And then he appointed Hillary Clinton as Secretary of State,
and then dropped 26,000 bombs on people.
It's like okay. And then you wonder how the line goes from Obama to Trump. It's like, well, you built that bridge.
I've got to get to a break here. Jam-packed phone lines, text messages hot. Deep's doing a great job. We're having a lot of fun. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Wake up, Denver. There's no better place to start your morning than IHOP, where the pancakes are fluffy, the coffee is hot, and the smiles are endless. Wednesday, October 22nd, join Jeff and Bill as they broadcast their show live from IHOP at 9565 South University Boulevard in Highlands Ranch. You're officially invited to be part of the excitement. Come grab your favorite breakfast and watch the Jeff and Bill Show in action from 6 to 10 a.m. Don't forget to try the special Jeff and Bill breakfast. Pancakes, any style eggs, and crispy bacon, all for just $7.10. It's a deal as good as their hot takes. All they need is you. Bring your appetite, bring your friends, and kick off your day with great food and great conversation. See you Wednesday, October 22nd at IHOP.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Bill's out this week, so co-hosting with me is Singh Badhesha. He's a political activist, card-carrying member of the Democrat Socialists of America. Thinks Colorado's a little too moderate. Would like to see it get more progressive. So as you can imagine, the debate is hot today. Let's go to Joe Arvada. Good morning, Joe. You're on with Jeff and Deep.
Hi, Jeff. Hi, Deep.
Hi,
Deep,
Joe.
I can help you. Deep. You are deep, bodaciously indoctrinated. Deep. You misquote so many facts. Where do I don't even know where to begin. You're a constant propaganda shoot.
If I'm a propagandist, I'm not getting paid enough for it. That's for sure.
Well, let's start with immigration. Okay, first of all, the numbers that just pop out of your mouth, they were talking about 20 million when Romney ran. That number is wildly wrong. Anyway, I'll tell you, the American people are not worried about a couple of people getting caught up in an immigration bust. Look, it's kind of like, when the whorehouse gets busted, there's the cook and the bartender. Okay, well, what about all of those prostitutes and Johns? When you look at L.A. and they get quoted a number in Minnesota in the areas they were going in, 60% of the people had deportation orders. I mean, it's not hard to find them. And believe me, if you're in the tank and you're an American citizen, you're going to come up with your paperwork. Come on, man.
All right, Joe, let's let Deep respond. Go ahead, sir.
So I think there's clear ramifications. Thanks, Joe, for calling in. I appreciate it. Let me know when my propagandist check clears. I'm still waiting for Joe Soros to cash in. Any day now, it's coming, right? It's like the paid protesters you see at the Bernie rallies, right? I have two concerns for the immigration comment, right? One is I think the enforcement of immigration and the way it's happening, right, with mass ICE officers, right, going into residential homes, going into businesses and sweeping up these peoples, that has broad ramifications about how we treat military in the streets, how we treat American citizens, and that's something that should concern everybody who could possibly be opposed to this administration. Right now, folks are aligned with the president and don't see themselves going up in that dragnet. But if you're like a Nebraskan soybean farmer, right, the soybean industry and the farming industry has been decimated. Let's say those people start protesting, right? Let's say those people start getting angry at this administration, and that dragnet and that anger and that authoritarianism comes for them, then I think we'll have a different tune. And we will wish that we did not normalize it as much. So one, we can talk about the immigration enforcement angle of it, but you were talking about how there's 20 million illegal immigrants in this country, which I think the numbers are disputed. The numbers I've seen, actually, it's as little as 3 million or 4 million, right?
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, but okay, let's talk about illegal immigration. Do you honestly think that if all those immigrants snapped overnight, all the illegal immigrants were gone overnight, that the problems that young people can't afford homes, that crime was rising, that jobs aren't paying well, that you can't afford health care, college is unaffordable, you don't have enough vacation time. Any of these things.
Yes, I think all of them would be solved because there'd be less people living in those houses. Go ahead, Joe.
Well, look, it's so simple. We had to cut off immigration between the 30s and the end of World War II because it was outrageous. We had too many people here that were not assimilating, and we had to get back to the American dream. See, once we stopped immigration coming in from the 30s to the end of World War II, it finally recovered. I will tell you this. If we got rid of the 20 million, and a lot of them are the drug problem, a lot of them are taking really low-wage jobs away because the employer would have to pay real wages. You wonder why these guys are getting filthy rich. It's because the employment
Joe,
situation.
Great call. Really appreciate it. I want to give Deep the last word. We're up against the break. Go ahead.
So you've probably heard this phrase that they said, like the problem with socialism, the problem with communism is eventually you run out of other people's tax dollars, right? Other people's money. In the same way is the problem with just going after illegal immigrants and minorities you don't like is eventually when you start getting rid of all these minorities, you start running out of people that you can blame for these issues. He's talking about real pain that the American workers are feeling, and he's blaming illegal immigrants because that's what right-wing agitators have told people to blame, essentially, right? And Democrats have done a good job of that. The top 1% of this country has taken 90% plus of the growth. So when you're wondering what happened to the American economy, why
we got to
can't
get to a
afford
break.
it's because
You're
the top
listening
1%.
to
It's not because
Jeff
of
and
immigrants.
Bill, News Talk 710 KNUS.